Hey everybody, welcome back to the 42 Days of Magical Practice. We're on day 31.
Awesome.
And today we're going to talk about something very cool.
As if everything else wasn't cool, Dustin?
Fair enough. Everything has been very cool.
Just saying.
We're just taking it to a new level. That's all.
Right. The coolness factor.
We got to notch it up.
You're right.
Yeah.
Probably up to 8 now.
Yeah.
Cranking it up to 8.
And eventually we'll get to like
11.
Yeah. 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 So today we're going to talk about toning.
Right.
We're going to talk about the power of your voice to change your state, and we're going to try to go pretty deep into that a little bit. I mean, enough to be inspiring, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, again, like all of this, you can take it out into the netherworlds.
Yeah.
So it's about keeping it relevant to what we're doing, but giving you enough of the principle to practice and really get some traction with it.
Yeah. And that was one of those things about this subject in particular, is that it can go so deep. I mean, when we were planning this out, that was one of the biggest things that we kind of had to work through. Was
a bit of a hurdle.
How do we make sure that this doesn't turn into a 4 or 5 hour video, right?
Or 4 or 5 month video.
Yeah, exactly. so just to get to the bare bones of it is, we're going to set it up so that we have an experiment or an exercise to do to see how doing a toning exercise actually affects our day. And then ultimately, as we go through these different levels of the practice, how we can utilize a specific toning practice to feed energy into the end result that we've chosen at the beginning of this course.
Right.
So just from like a bird's eye view, can we talk about, toning and using your voice and how that affects not just your state, but your environment?
Sure. I think, again, we're so cued into sound. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, but we always carry this instrument around with us. I mean, many of us play instruments or play musical instruments, right? So, but this is the one that's constantly with us no matter what. It's foremost for our communication, right? And communicating with one another. And definitely one of those things, as far as we know, that gives us another bit of separation from other species as well, right? So as far as for certain ones, and where we can transfer very specific ideas or very broad ideas to other people and help them to understand what we're thinking about or what we're trying to achieve. So, so again...
Well, I mean, I think the other thing is when we talk about magic or whatever as being kind of differentiated from, let's say, other spiritual practices or even mysticism, right? I mean, with magic, we're looking to produce an effect in our environment, right? And a lot of times, I mean, depending on what types of practices or, even rituals people engage in, it's like they're using tools a lot of the time to do that. Right? And so one of the things that you were saying is, again, like that, this is the tool that you have with you all the time. Right.
Yeah, you really don't need anything else. I mean, there's no other focal instrument or anything else that you need to do. If you were out in the middle of nowhere with nothing with you, you'd still have your voice, hopefully. So you could utilize that if you know the basic principles and work with them for a while. I mean, you don't want to just get thrown into those extreme situations, and then that's the time you try to pull out the chanting. You want to practice it. And I find that people get a lot more play out of this, meaning, tangible results from chanting and effect from chanting within themselves. And then, of course, as they're changing themselves, they're changing their environment at large. So, but it all starts from within. It all starts from you. And when you change you, everything else around you starts to change as well. It has to. That's one of the basic principles of what we're doing, right?
Right. That's kind of like our operating hypothesis.
That's the operating hypothesis. That's right. And in this series, we're trying to give enough tools that you can check that out for yourself.
Right. You don't have to take somebody's word for it.
No.
I mean, I think that that's so important, you know, because I could ask you and I could really like drill you about like, you know, how does that work? Or, you know, can you explain the mechanism of how chanting changes your state and then how your state affects your environment, you know, in this kind of magical way. But really, again, it's all about experimentation. I mean, nothing's going to prove it to you like doing it.
Absolutely. And, you know, with any experiment, we have to start with a hypothesis.
Right.
So, I mean, we have to have an idea of what we're trying to achieve or just what we're trying to experience. If I mix this with this, what do I get? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking if it's two good things, I might come up with something even better. Mm. So, but I don't know for sure. So it's a hypothesis until I do that and try it. Mm-hmm. It might be the worst thing I've ever made. but at the same time, we have to have sort of a working hypothesis. Where do we start from? We have to have a common goal for that, or a common starting ground for that to go forward. Mm-hmm.
So I think what we'll do is I think diving into the actual practice itself is probably the best way to start. Just mm-hmm. taking us through like the, you know, how do you do what it is that we're going to do, sure. and how do you do it correctly, mm-hmm. and then we can look at like what do we expect to get as an end result, and how can we like run this experiment in our lives today to see how it's going to make our day better.
It makes sense. I mean, we always want to keep these segments short enough so that people can do them, not overwhelm anybody, and right. at the same time gauge it against what our normal baseline is for the day. So we're always looking at that. And again, if we're using our notes or looking at what we've done, we sort of have this baseline. Here's my Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday baseline of events and how I usually, is my energy up during the day here and lower here, like after lunch or whatever. We have a baseline of where we normally are. That's the standard. Mm. And then from there, we're measuring everything against that baseline. Is it lower? Is it higher? You know, does it peak out at a different time? Does it drop off at a different time? Is it keeping me up all night? Or you know, is it giving me a slower start in the beginning of the day? All of those things are relevant. We just need to know that we're always gauging it against the standard baseline that each of us has to start with. Mm. So the practice is very easy. It's in essence. So we're going to start with a common chant, which is E-A-O. And in doing that, at this point, we don't want to think of it as being anything other than just its basic elements, right? So just the sounds that we're hearing. Again, vibrating our vocal cords, relaxing, you know, the shape of our mouth, just to be able to produce those constant sounds, sort of a droning of those sounds. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the important things that usually comes up after I talk about doing this is which pitch or which note am I trying to hit for different things. We don't have to worry about that so much, right? So it's like, how do I find my perfect pitch, so to speak? You know, where is my voice going to resonate where I'm not going, ooh, you know, that sounded horrible. Because a lot of people do that. They hear themselves on a recording and they go, that's me. So it's a very natural, you know, kind of phenomenon. So we want to try to find, and the way that we find that pitch that's perfect for us is just, you know, say we're taking the first sound of E and we're just chanting it, and you can modulate your voice up or down in a slow way. So if I'm going E down to the lowest point or up to the highest point, you're going to find a spot. If you focus not on the sound so much, but the somatic response, so the physical, the visceral response of your body, you want to be able to feel that in three locations. Everybody's going to feel it in their throat, right? Because that's where it's emanating from. So, but you also want to feel it in the solar plexus, or between the solar plexus and the heart, you know, for some people. And you want to be able to feel it ideally in the third eye as well. So if when I hit the pitch where all three of those are vibrating together, and it may take you a few tries to sort of figure it out. You may be stuck between one or two or three different ways, and it's not a single place that's going to do that, right? It could be a high pitch that does it, a medium pitch, and a low pitch that does that. So you want to find the one that's the most comfortable. What is a pitch that you can sustain for an extended period of time, let's say 3 minutes, without straining your voice, but that you can keep those three areas resonating together, meaning all at the same time, not that they're going to be completely, fluctuating at the same rate, right? So, but you want to be able to feel this area, and this area when you hit that tone, when you hit that pitch, okay? So, and that's how I find that. And that's just, that's just real basic experimentation, find a quiet place, wait till everybody's gone out of the house so you don't have to worry about, people hearing you and going, what the hell are you doing? Oh my God, who's killing the cat in the backyard? It's like, so you can put all that out of your mind because you know what? You may judge your own voice, your wife may judge your own voice, or your husband may judge your own voice, or whatever, your kids may judge your voice, but God's not judging your voice.
Right.
So just do it. All right. So again, just find the tone that's comfortable to start with. Again, keep your back very straight.
Right.
We can adjust all of those things with little individual voice training techniques, keeping my diaphragm, tight and tucked in, and being able to open all of that up, but that's all later. I mean, first, right now, we're just trying to find a base of where you're going to go with this.
Right.
So how can I just sit down and do this? And for me, the primary thing is sit up straight. Give your lungs the room to expand. Don't let anything get in the way. You don't want to be crunched over so that everything's sort of crunched in here. And you can already hear the stress in my voice from the organs being compressed together, right?
Right.
So that's why people are, you want to sit up straight, keep your back straight, so that everything can flow well in and out. It's like a bellows. Right? So, and just use E and try to find that place. Again, you'll feel it here first, and just keep doing it and go as slow as you can, moving up, maybe the higher range the first breath. You don't have to sustain it for that long. And then, as you bring it down, or next breath, you do a lower register, right? You're going to sustain that. And just, again, you're focusing on your body and really, as objectively as you can, trying to find the place where all three of these are resonating at the same time. That's all. And so once you find that, that's sort of your basic pitch where you're going to be able to sustain it. You're going to feel more comfortable there. You're going to have a natural sort of ease to that. It's not something you're going to have to analyze too much. You're going to naturally feel like that's a very comfortable place. I could do this all day. Don't do it all day, but you could do it all day. So, and again, make sure that you've had something to drink, that your throat is moist, and so because you will use it, and we can break it in between the different vowel sounds and take another drink. You want to make sure that if you're not used to doing this, 3 minutes is a long time. It can, you can feel some strain. You don't want to strain your vocal cords. You don't want to bring yourself up too quickly, and you're not going to damage it per se, but you're definitely going to make it so that it's going to be hard to do the next parts of the exercises if you're constantly straining. You don't want to do that. You don't need to belt it out. But again, this is about expression, not repression, right? So I don't want to, that's why having everybody out of the house, the other reason for that is that you don't have to hold back. You don't have to make it loud, but it should be a comfortable volume for you so that you're not feeling like, oh, I better do it quieter because I don't want anybody to hear me. All these things are going through everybody's head. It's not just, unless you're a singer.
Yeah.
Everybody has that. Everybody feels that. So it's okay. Just be in a comfortable volume that you can sustain and hear, and really turn yourself inward toward your body and see where the feeling resonates. And again, trying to connect all three of those areas, basically. So again, once I have that, then I'm just going to, for 3 minutes, I'm going to chant the vowel sound, even though we represent it with an I. We're going to chant, the sound is actually going to be E. So the vowel sound E. So I'm going to just chant that once I find my space for 3 minutes in a comfortable pace, nice deep breaths, and very rhithmically. I'm just going to hold the E. And again, don't hold it so long that at the end it's like, you don't want to drag it out. It's like when you start to feel that you can end it in that same tone, end it. Deep breath, don't rush. Again, the same thing. Hit that same pitch and sustain that, sort of just being aware of those 3 areas resonating at the same time. And nothing else. That's all I'm looking for, is basically resonating those 3 areas. That's my only focus at that point. And again, then we move on to the next vowel sound, which is ah. We represent with an A, capital A, but it's ah. Okay, and the same idea, find the place where that's going to be. Almost always it's going to be exactly the same pitch that you were at before. You're just changing the shape of your mouth and just focusing on that sound and constantly, sort of moving it through in as comfortable a pace as you can. Can you take a little break between them? Of course, take a drink of water. If you need to re-wet your throat, that's fine. And again, then we're going to do the same thing with ah. So after that, we're going to do the same thing with O, right? So, and O is represented by O. So
novel,
amazing. So, and then going with that again, and it's just the O sound. Like, don't slip into that habit of, oh, I heard it should be om. That's a whole different thing. So just stay with the vowel sound. So it's O at this point, and you're doing the same thing with O. It'll probably be exactly the same pitch. Take a break, do the same thing. So it's just a deep breath in, and then a very comfortable, continuous sort of droning of that for 3 minutes. And you could just use the timer on your phone or whatever. When it dings, good, you reset it for 3 minutes and 3 minutes. So the whole thing should take you 9 to 10 minutes to do the whole practice. And then you want to see the baseline of your day. Now, is this designed to just increase your energy level? Not really, but at the same time, what is it designed to do? I really want people to have their own experience. I don't want to plant too many thoughts in your head, not because I want you to not know, but I want you to have your own experience. Value your own experience more than anybody else, including mine. Value your own experience more than anyone else's. You don't need validation from me or anything else, right? So it's, again, see how it blends through the day. And again, what am I trying to do? It's not just, oh, I have more energy through the day, or I was really tired through the day, or I was really, whatever through the day. I just want to see, what experience you have. But it's in doing that, engaging against your baseline, make a few notes at the end of the day and just compare and see how it goes. And that's going to be the best indicator to see what's happening. Again, traditionally we might separate those out and just do one on one day, one on another day, one on another day, and compare them. But in this case, we want to take it as a unit. So, and just focus in on each vowel sound and produce sort of this harmonic, and a chord, basically. And again, like any chord, it's a blending, right? So we want to see what happens throughout your day. Is the day not just about the energy level, but what is the blending of how smoothly or how harmonic is your day compared to what your normal day would be? Whatever way that is for you. For some people it might be energy level, but for other people it may just be smooth communication with other people and people in your environment. It may just be smooth transition in areas that were before a problem. Maybe smooth resolution of those things. Everybody's going to be slightly different. So, you know, we want you to have your own experience, and again, just gauge it against the baseline.
Right. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is like the Om sound that most people are very familiar with from yoga and stuff like that. So maybe you could just touch on like, why are we using EAO instead of Om, and is there maybe a relationship between the two, or why, what can we have like some broad overview of like what it means, or why those vowel sounds, and we just like a basic context for like
What the hell are we doing?
What the hell are we doing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if I can do the comparison, because the comparison would be a little bit too broad for the scope of what we're doing here. And even within that context, I can guarantee you that if I said anything about Om, or my knowledge of that,
right? Yeah. Sure.
Then there will be 100 traditions that type in and say it actually means this, or it actually means this.
Right.
It's whatever your tradition says it is, and if you're following that, then that's going to be your correspondence for that.
Okay.
So stick with your tradition. Our job is to try to enhance your skill level so that your tradition, whatever it is, will produce more consistent and better results for you.
Okay.
So EAO, again, when we look at it, or the vowel sounds in particular, if we don't even want to take EAO as a unit, if we want to break it in, we can break it into all of the vowel sounds. Think of it this way, in very broad terms. The vowel sounds create a specific energetic resonance. They draw to you, they produce that resonance within you, and like speaks to like. So it then has an ethereal attachment, which then draws to you the equivalent in the ethers, right? So, or whatever you want to call it, right? The akasha, the space, the place of pure potential. It draws to you and aligns with you, and sort of aligns with that resonance in you. And so there are these, think of them as those sort of source energy points. The consonant sounds, the sounds of the consonants, when we put them in there, those are the tools that shape it into whatever we want. So think of the vowels as being sort of the clay, and the consonants sort of being the tools that we shape it into the form that we want. That would be a nice analogy, to think of it that way. It's always helped me anyway, to think of it in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and in this case, sort of splitting it up and doing it individually, we're sort of getting that, sort of a broad spectrum of what those energies are being accumulated in our body, or we're in training to. And the end result being, in this case, we want to see how that energetic resonance influences our day, how we move through our day. If I've been trained to that and brought those online and put myself in, let's say, that column of energy, how does that, walking through my day in that, how does that affect me, and for how long? Maybe it's just the first hour of your day. Maybe if you really feel pretty buzzy after that, that may end up extending through your whole day. That might keep you up at night. It's up to each person to sort of figure out, how that's working for them. And then from that place, we can sort of manipulate it and work with it to get it to a specific range that we want. But right now, just those vowel sounds, it's basically just entraining us to a deeper pool of that same resonance.
Of what same resonance?
The energetic resonance that vowel entrains to, that vibration entrains to.
And all three together produce?
A different one. Yeah, and a more undifferentiated one. If we link them together, which we'll do toward the end, we're going to see that that undifferentiated force, again, will be utilized, and it can be utilized in many different ways. So it's sort of a generic pool of energy that we can tap into, and then sculpt it in a way that's going to help us in with producing our end result that we're looking for.
Right. So our end goal is to be able to channel that energy into producing the result that we want.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at this point, we want to become familiar with the act of actually intoning those vowels themselves and the sensations that they produce within us,
Right.
how it makes us feel and how it affects our day.
Again, like anything that we do, right? We need a general parameter, a working theorem to go on, right? And then we look a little deeper into it on the second stage, right? Break it apart, look at all the individual components, make sure they're working well together, get a better understanding of them. That's the communication process, right? Or the mercury aspect of an alchemical process. We want to see how they communicate with each other, how do they work together, and our understanding of that. And then at the end, we have this, physical manifestation of that, very elegant working and harmonizing of those components, right? So we produce something that's even more beautiful. We produce a symphony, right? So it's all these working parts. It's the horns and the strings and the drums and the, piano, harp, all of these instruments working together. Any one alone is beautiful. Together, they may be a cacophony, but put in the right scenario, they produce a symphony, right? So again, we have to learn our instrument. Then we can play with others and find out which one takes the lead, which one doesn't, what's the right volume for each of these individual instruments. And then, and what do they reflect? I mean, horns, brass instruments sound different than violins, thank God, because otherwise we just have these flat sounds, right? Everything would sound the same. When horns play softly, they sound different than when they play more loudly, right? And reed instruments sound different than that, and drums accent things. So there's all of these sounds that we put together. So in that mercurial aspect, we're learning how they communicate together and what levels all of these things would be in. But in the end, it's the symphony. If we put it together right, we produce the symphony. And of course, the feeling behind that symphony is what we're really trying to get to funnel into our end result. Because now we're saying this beautiful piece of music is the feeling and the energy behind my end result already being there. That's what it's going to sound like. So, yeah, that's this day.
Okay. Yeah, all right, I think we should
get to work.
Let it run. Because I've got questions in my mind that I want to ask you about that, but we're going to save it for the next couple videos.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, this is going to turn into way too long.
You'll be taking me off the leash and you're not going to catch me. I'm running at that part. It's like you can wag the cookie all you want.
It'll be bad.
I'm not coming back. It'll be bad. It'll be very bad.
All right, cool. So just for today, just doing those, experimenting with those 3 vowel sounds.
Yeah, and I guess
3 minutes each.
Yeah.
Trying to get the resonance to feel the physical vibration in those 3 centers of the body. And you mentioned having your back straight, but one of the other things I think is really important is again relaxing. Because
relaxing is always the key to everything.
Because again, at least for myself, whenever I've first started to do any new practice like this or any other, it's like I've always kind of had this bias of like, the harder I try, the more I force, the more I, is like somehow it's going to be better because it's louder and it's more intense and I'm trying harder and all that stuff. I mean, just for myself, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like one of those things where like I feel like it's my job to like try to bring up a lot. You know, it's like okay, remember to relax. Because like, you know, because this whole thing, right? It's like, you know, about changing the frequency of your
Exactly.
body and using one of the most powerful tools that you have. But if you're not relaxed, then you're not going to.
You're going to restrain
shift, right?
It's going to be under constraint.
Right.
Right. So we always just remember, the basic way to remember it is that, you know, the more force you put in there, it becomes sort of undifferentiated.
In a bad way.
In a bad way. Right.
Unfocused.
Unfocused. Focused is power. So relaxation is a way to focus. Relaxation is power. So that we can make that equation. You know, power versus force. So tense is more force. Power is more relaxed.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Good luck with it,
Good
guys.
to go.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah. Banging it out.
Perfect. That was cool.
Kara was like
So-
having to restrain herself pretty mightily during the killing the cat in the backyard.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.